I would like to continue the journey into this book to show you another interesting game. I will show it to you from the side that loses. Generally I show the games from the side which win, but since this is a book about defense, we need to see how white that loses the game could have improved. In reality, the author comments from both sides, so it's a little difficult to know which side you should show the game, because black is going to win, but how do you do the exercise? Do you like to do it from black side or do you like to do it from white side? I thought you should do it from white side. Hope I will be right. So the white player is Sachs, a Grandmaster that I think it was from Hungary, and the black player is Andrew Martin, a famous chess book author. I think he's an international master, but clearly is Grandmaster level strength, right? Because in this case he beats a Grandmaster, and he surely has beaten many of them throughout his career. e4, c6, d3, d5, knight d2, e5. So already now we know that this wasn't a Caro-Kann, right? Because in a Caro-Kann white would have taken the center, instead now black as the center. Knight gf3, bishop d6, g3, knight f6, bishop g2 and castle. At this point this is what we call a King's Indian attack. Why we call it attack and not defense? Because it's played by white side. When it's white playing, everything is attacking, also if it's a defense. Because as you can see, it's not really attacking anything. This game was played in 1983, 1984. Generally the King's Indian attack is played by those that want to kind of avoid the theory, since more or less the moves are the same of the King's Indian defense. And it was played in the beginning by Fischer, because Fischer had the idea that he could play one opening for both sides. In this case the King's Indian attack with white and the King's Indian defense with black. The problem is it doesn't really work like that. It doesn't work like that. And especially if when you open e4, the opponent open e5, you cannot really play the King's Indian attack, if I remember well. There are a few things that don't really work. Okay, so after castle, white plays h3. So it doesn't want to have this pin. Rook e8 and a castle. Immediately black tries to gain space, and he does it with a5. Rook e1. This rook e1 is played because generally there is a maneuver on knight f1, and I don't know if knight h2 or g4, or knight f1, g4, knight g3, and the idea is to go on f5. Okay, so knight a6, and here it says, in response to a King's Indian attack, black has seized space in the center. He has also put up a barrier against a white queenside pawn advance with c2, c3 and b4 by guarding the b4 square 3 times. 1, 2, free. Sachs therefore decides that the action in the center is his best bet. Of course, when there is an attack on the side, you need to have some counterplay. In this case, it made sense in the center, right? With d4. And here, black made a mistake. He played a move that was weak, and he should have played a different move. The move played in the game is d takes e4. Instead, knight takes e4 was the right move. And here there is a big line. But honestly, I want to move forward and show you the point where the defense was really important, okay? D takes e4. How do you think if you were white you would answer this? Because this is a kind of exercise that can help you improve. The right move is knight takes e5. Bishop takes e5. And d takes e5. In the analysis at move 10, by playing knight takes e4, black ensured that the knight on f6 would be exchanged for the horse on d2. White got to play knight takes e5. Okay. Here it says that the problem is that the knight is still on f6, no? And the queen could be exchanged, I think. What does it say? It says that to capture on e5 gives black a long-term inferiority. Okay, let's see what happens. Knight takes e4, and now the problem is that this is not defended, okay? So you need to do something about that. Oh, okay. Bishop f5, knight takes f6, queen takes f6, rook takes e5, queen takes e5, and now there is c3. Why c3? Okay, obviously because there is knight b4 possibility. The other thing is this is attacking here. With c3 you can finally play something like that. But I'm really curious. And in fact it says stopping the black knight going to b4, white has emerged with the bishop here in an otherwise unbalanced position. Okay, so for him the inferiority of this position for black is the bishop here. Again, I don't disagree because obviously Neil McDonald is a grandmaster, but guys, can you really say that this is a real bad inferior position for black? I don't know. Most average players maybe are not so good at using the bishop pair, right? So let's see what happens. Here he plays rook e8. So he's trying to centralize the piece, but it seems it's not good. He says rather pointless, as after white's reply the rook can do nothing along the e file. Okay, and this is a good comment. So what should have he done? We don't know. No, he should have played this, queen e6. This was the best move. Why? Because after g4, for example, bishop e4, black tries to generate some counterplay. Maybe the idea in reality is to exchange the bishop here, but let's see another thing. Why rook e8 is not good? Because white plays this, bishop e3, and so he cannot use the e file. It's strange that Andrew Martin didn't see that, right? Because it seems kind of logical. Honestly, what scared me here was maybe that at some point white could enter in the 7th. But at the moment, luckily, there is this bishop that is controlling the d7 square. And generally to enter in the 7 is kind of important. However, another thing, we are at move 16, and you know why I think this move is bad? Because it gives white a tempo he needs to develop the bishop. So if you do something else, like he said, queen e6, he doesn't get that tempo. And if he had to play this or this, you still didn't develop that, right? Instead, with this, he immediately react and make this. And now, by the way, if you notice, black finished the development, white still has to mobilize the queen, right? So it's a little behind. Notice that after bishop e3, he still played queen e6. So this would have made sense, yes, it would have made sense to play it right away. And again, as you can see, it's difficult. You see, this is why I like to watch an entire game instead of doing a tactical position or a position and that's it. Why? Because when you do a tactical position or also a strategic position, you are thrown in without understanding anything. Here we see that it wasn't so easy to understand what the players were doing and why from the beginning. So that's kind of important in my opinion. This makes us grow more than just watching position and solving tactical positions. White goes for king h2. Now again, black decided to move this knight. Why? Because that knight there is not doing anything anymore, right? And so he plays knight c7. Queen b3, attacking this, you say, but also attacking this, right? And black doesn't exchange the queens. Why? Quite simple, because if you exchange the queens, how do you defend this? And then there is also bishop b6, so it's a kind of mess, right? So he played knight d5, and of course the idea is that you want to give you this for getting this and having a chance to counter attack on the king side. Why? Because obviously the goal of the game is checkmating generally, and he thinks that he has more chances to checkmate white if he can damage a little the pawn structure, and he will have enough time also if black gets the pawn on this side. But here you can see that white played rook e1, and now if you are black you cannot really play knight takes e3. Okay? Why? Because if you play knight takes e3, rook takes e3, you must go back. If you don't go back, if you do like a queen takes b3, there is a rook takes e8 checkmate. So you must be careful because this king has a back rank weakness. Okay? the problem is, again, try to watch it. Knight takes e3, rook takes e3, queen d7, rook takes e8, queen takes d8, queen takes b7, boom. And what's the big difference? That the white side is still intact, while the black queen side is collapsing. So that's why rook e1 is a good move, right? Black plays queen d7, and of course white is attacking with rook d1, because the threat here is this, right? So black needs to do something again, and in this case it does queen c8. Bishop takes e5, oops, c takes d5, and the queen takes d5. So at this point it seems white has an advantage, right? Black plays this, a4, and white continues with rook d4. So you say, why is giving away his h pawn for this? Because he thinks that that pawn majority will win the game. The problem is that he has created a kind of weakness on the king side, right? So bishop takes h3, rook takes a4, and bishop f1. Here it says black has been positionally outplayed and lost his pawn, but is wriggling hard. Okay, so let's see what white does. Rook h4, rook d8, and queen e5. Long term, white 3-1 queenside pawn majority gives him good winning chances, notwithstanding the drawish capabilities of opposite color bishops. Meanwhile, on the king side, white also appears well on top, as his rook is aiming at h7, with his queen ready to support it. But never say die. No doubt, with an innocent face, black decided to nudge the queen. So what did he do? Rook e8, and now we come at the critical moment in the game for which I show you this game from the white side, okay? This is why you watch this game up to now. Now you need to take out all your 3 minutes, all your 10 minutes clock, and think what you will do next, okay? So pause the video and think what you will do next. I will give you the question that McDonald made in the game. He said, you have a choice here. You can play queen c5 to offer the exchange of queens, or queen h5 to attack h7. Can you see something terribly wrong with either of these moves? So you are here, you need to decide queen c5 or queen h5. What would you play if you were white? Take your time and try to find it out. So white blundered and played queen h5. Big blunder. Why? Let me show you why. Because queen c5 would keep control by preventing blackness move, but Sachs trustingly attack the h7 pawn. No doubt he was expecting bishop d3. So he was thinking to play this, that black would play that, but black didn't play that, right? So what do you think black played? Because this is the point of all the situation. It's strange. I mean, white is a veteran. Is a veteran grandmaster. Is not someone like us that we never play chess. This guy played chess all his life. All his life. Every day, because he was a professional. And yet, he failed to see this. Queen c6. Can you imagine? Here it says the centralization of a black queen and rook trump the white attack down the h file. Nowadays, international master Andrew Martin is renowned for his chess teaching and videos, but here he shows his tactical resourcefulness as an over-the-board fighter. It turns out that black has set a lethal trap, using the h7 pawn as bait. He has enticed the white queen into leaving the center, so that his own queen accesses the c6 h1 diagonal. There is now a deadly mating threat against g2. White's helplessness in guarding this vital light square reminds me of the quip: when there are opposite color bishops, the player with the initiative is a piece up. So that's interesting, I didn't know this phrase. When there are opposite color bishops, the player with the initiative is a piece up. Okay, that's kind of interesting. So, queen takes h7, king f8. Oh wow. Here he played bishop c5. That's kind of interesting. It's the only way to survive. Let's see what happens here, because I find it kind of interesting, right guys? I think it's kind of important for us to watch this. So, let's say that he played f3 to avoid the checkmate, right, on g2. Obviously you cannot play queen takes f3, because if you make that mistake you pay with bishop c5, no? Rook e7 and queen h8 checkmate. So what do you have to do? You have to take on e3. And this wins. Of course, white can play this, and then, but the good check soon dried up, leaving both mate on g2 and the white queen hanging. Okay, so this doesn't really work. Let's see if instead he played this move right away, right? Let's see, this instead of f3, right? King here, and then bishop g5, and then here, check again, here, check, and here. And the white has to resign, it says here, because of course your only chance at that point is that this takes, and yes, probably is not a good situation for white. Notice that you cannot play this, because this is still here, this is still in the game. So with a queen up, obviously there are bad things happening to white, probably, or maybe this, I don't know. But again, does really white want to play this kind of endgame? I don't think so, right? And I'm sure black would enjoy it. But again, this is another thing that will really teach you chess. Try to play also this position against an engine, because an engine really never gets tired, so it's kind of interesting, I think, right? So let's see if I can put the position black back as it was. Yeah, I think it was like this, probably. Let me check. Yep. Okay. So, how did the game continue since white made the big mistake and black saw this move that ended the game? It continued with queen takes h7, right? King f8, bishop c5, he sacrificed the bishop, it takes, and king g1. Notice that you cannot play this move because the queen would be back here, and this would be a very, very big problem, right? So again, but I think it could be useful to watch. I'm just curious. Of course, you could do your own analysis, which would be better, right? Let's see. Tack, tack. And I don't see it, honestly. Boom. No, I don't see it, I don't see it. So, rook d4, not the right move. No, I don't see it. Okay, but eventually, guys, do your own analysis. Here in the book there are more analysis. I think they are interesting because you need to find the best move for white in this position, right? And is not that. So let me put also this back here, because otherwise we are in a wrong position. So this was the position, and we saw that rook d4 doesn't really work. So what do you play if you are white? What do you play if you are white? Notice that it doesn't mean that you're going to save yourself, okay? But you generally try to create as many problems as possible to black, because if black makes a mistake, you are still in the game. The move was king g1. But the problem is rook e1, okay? After which there was queen h8, king e7, and here white played rook d4. Here obviously the threat is queen d8, right? So what would you play as black? As black, he played a very strong move, which is this. Boom! Bishop h3. So why is this move good? Because now you have to play this, right? And unfortunately there is this. And so when you take, guess what? The c6 square returned badly into the game, and I think there is nothing here, right, that white can do. Once he does this, oops. And of course, if he gives this, okay, because this is a computer, a computer would do something like that, and then you try to escape, but it's too late. Okay, so it's a beautiful game by Andrew Martin. I was really happy to see it, and it seems all of this thing lied between going to h5 or c5. If we would have played c5, he would have survived, and he missed this queen c6 strangely, or he was convinced that he could manage it to give checkmate before, but it wasn't true. So as you can see, this is my problem. At a certain point I felt that when you play against an engine, the real problem is calculation. The engine, in my opinion, would beat you also if you could set the engine at just 4 moves deep. 4 moves, not 3, not 2, 4 moves, because most players never calculate 4 moves ahead. Maybe they calculate 1 move, 2 moves, really great, but 4 moves they don't. So we have engines that in a second reach 20 moves, 25 moves, because they are really strong, especially on my latest computer. But no human sees that. A human wouldn't even able to see 4 moves. So I don't know. This is my problem. And then of course the engines find some amazing resources that we never find. So I don't know what to tell you. However, this was a beautiful game. I'm happy I saw it. Thank you for watching.